What's going on YouTube? It's Craig, certified technician here at ApplianceVideo.com. And today we have this General Electric French door refrigerator, and I'm going to show you how to enter diagnostics, run a couple of tests, as well as take a look at those error codes. But before we get too far, make sure you hit that like and subscribe, and without further ado, let's jump right in. First, to enter diagnostics, you have to open the doors, and then you'll see your display portion on the top. To get in, you'll hit the fridge, freezer, as well as the autofill pitcher buttons at the same exact time until 00 shows up on your display. Now, the lights may stay on, it may go off. It's kind of intermittent during this test cycle, but if it shows 00, that indicates that we have successfully entered. In order to scroll through the different options, you will use the refrigerator key to decrease the option or the freezer key to increase the option. So the first test is going to show 00. This is going to be for your error codes. To enter the test, you'll simply hit one of the three keys on the right-hand side in order to enter. As soon as you go into the error code portion, read will be displayed. Now, you may find an F. This is going to be your fault code number, and then possibly an O, and this is going to be for the number of occurrences. And then finally, a D, showing you the number of days since the last fault has occurred. During this portion, you'll use your up and down keys, your fridge or your freezer key, to go to the next or previous error code. Once you have reached the end of your error codes, a 2-beep noise will occur. The most common error codes, or the list of error codes you may find, are thermistor error codes, which could range anywhere from 1 to 99. And when these are displayed, it will show items like 0001 for a fresh food thermistor invalid, or you can go up to a 0010 for an ice mold body thermistor invalid. These are all temperature sensor error codes. So if you do have one of these error codes inside the system, the first thing you're going to want to check is the thermistor that is applicable to that error code. Thermistors are pretty common, especially if you've had some type of ice or something on it. They have a tendency to crack. So if you do have this error code, replace the thermistor that it applies to. We have the error codes in the 100 range, and these are going to be fans, and that could be anywhere from 0100 all the way to 0108. There are multiple fans inside this system. Depending on what error code you have, you may have a freezer fan motor error code, a fresh food motor error code, or a condenser fan motor error code. The condenser fan motor is what cools down the compressor. If you have this, make sure the fan motor on the back is running. If not, it'll need to be replaced. The fresh food and the freezer fan motor can be intermittent. So if you do have one of those error codes, make sure you open and close the door a couple of times and make sure that fan turns on and off. If it has noises or it's not turning on, make sure you replace it. We have 4 different defrost error codes, which would be 0200 for freezer defrost heater on for max time, 0201 for a fresh food heater on for max time, 0202 for 5 consecutive freezer abnormal defrost, and 0203 for 5 consecutive fresh food abnormal defrost. During these defrost error codes, there's 2 things you want to check for, and they apply for both compartments. So if your freezer or refrigerator is having a defrost issue and is throwing that error code, look on the back panel to see if you see a large amount of ice. If you do, then the heater circuit is having an issue. You'll need to defrost it and check out those components. But the other thing that I find sometimes is that customers will complain that the compartments are getting too hot. It did have abnormal defrost error codes inside there, and sometimes what can happen is that board can cause the defrost system to stay on for longer than usual, increasing the temperature inside the refrigerator or freezer section. So if you see a large amount of moisture inside there and it's throwing one of these error codes, the problem actually might be within your board. The next set of error codes is the 300 error codes, and these are sealed system problems. As a consumer, you do not want one of these error codes. If it pops up, that means that you're probably having a problem in one of your diverter valves that change where the refrigerant is directed, or the refrigerant system itself. Be prepared to fork out a lot of money and call a trained professional. You may find the error codes in the 400 indicating that you have a problem with the main control board in the back, or an error code within the 500 indicating that you have a problem with the door control. The next one that I tend to find is the 600 range. This is for ice maker problems. This unit has the freezer ice maker and it loves to throw error codes. So if you are getting a freezer ice maker error code, you're probably going to want to replace it. The next group will be the error codes in the 700s. Now, these are called external interaction error codes. So I'm going to go through a couple of the more common ones that you might find. There's the 0700 for a stuck key on temperature control UI board. 0713 for a fresh food door open for 15 minutes without closing, usually an issue with the door switch. And then, with that being said, we can jump to 0717 for a freezer door open for 15 minutes without closing, also usually a problem with the freezer door switch. There are multiple water flow error codes, which would range anywhere from 0745 all the way up to 0752, and of course there is a 0754 for reach 3 times F724 global timeout. That brings us to the last segment, which is the 800, and this is going to be RFID error codes. You don't need to mess with these. But let's exit error codes by pressing one of the 3 keys on the right. And then I want you to go to the option 01, which you'll just hit the freezer key to increase the increment. And then go ahead and press one of the 3 keys again. This is going to clear all the error codes in your system so that if something fails, you'll be able to start from fresh. So with the error codes out of the way, let's go ahead and test out some components. We're going to go through all the different options with the plus or minus key and then activate each load with the 3rd key. But it's important to note that after we activate a load, in order to turn it off and switch settings again, you'll have to press the 3rd key or one of the 3 keys on the right side again to exit that, and then we can go up or down. So I'll go through a couple of the tests that are pretty common for consumers. The first set of tests that I want you to go to is all the way up to selections 24. And this will be anywhere from 24 to 40. Each one of these tests is a thermistor test. If you have went through your error codes and you're throwing a thermistor error code, go to the applicable test, whether it be the ice maker thermistor, the freezer thermistor, fresh food thermistor, and then you're going to press one of the 3 keys to the right. Now, at this point, it should show the real-time temperature of the thermistor. Obviously, if it says 75 degrees on there and you're reading right around 30 degrees inside your refrigerator section, there's a problem with the thermistor. But if it's completely out of the range and the actual board understands that, it will show 2 lines on there indicating that the thermistor is bad. Now, once you are done testing out these thermistors, again, press one of the right keys and then you'll be able to press up or down to change the increment of the test again. Next, I want you to scroll down to numbers 47, 48, 49, and 52. Number 47 is a fresh food fan test. 48 is a freezer fan test. 49 is a condenser fan test. And 52 is a convertible drawer fan test. Upon pressing one of the 3 keys to the right, the display will show the fan speed at low, medium, or high speed. The 3 big things we're looking for in this group of tests will be the freezer fan motor, the fresh food fan motor, and the condenser fan motor. If your unit is not cooling right, make sure your condenser fan motor is running because it will cause it to heat up really quickly inside that freezer section. If it's causing it to not freeze properly inside the freezer, just kind of on the cusp, turn on that freezer fan motor test and make sure that's running. And then of course, the fresh food fan motor test, really common, but I'm going to tell you as a consumer, if that fan motor sounds scratchy at all, you'll probably want to replace it. Moving forward, I want you to jump all the way to test number 59. This is going to be for an ice maker harvest test. Run this test, make sure the ice maker harvested. It will not fill during this portion, but at least you can check to make sure the motor and the rakes are moving freely. Exit it by pressing one of the 3 keys and move forward to number 60. 60 is going to be a freezer defrost test. If you're throwing a defrost error code, go through this test. Turn that heater on, energize it, and listen for a crackle. If you hear a crackle, that means that the defrost system is probably good and that the board is the issue. Go ahead and hit the 3rd key to exit out of test 60. Test number 61 is a compressor test. It will not turn on your fans during this portion, but you can turn on your compressor, which is really important because you want to be able to hear your compressor without all that outside noise. If your compressor's not running, make sure you call a trained professional. Go ahead and press the 3rd key to exit so that we can move forward. Now, I want you to skip all the way down to test number 93 and 94. These are defrost system tests once again, but these actually show feedback and will show the thermistor temperature at real time. The number 93 is going to be for the freezer, number 94 is going to be for the fresh food. So go ahead and energize one of those bad boys if you're having a defrost issue, and make sure that thermistor number changes. And once it reaches 80 degrees, the defrost system will automatically shut off, but you can prematurely shut it off by pressing one of the 3 keys again. Next, we have test 95 and 96. 95 is for a freezer cooling test, 96 is for a fresh food cooling test. During both of these tests, it is going to turn on the compressor and the fan in the designated area, and then it's going to turn on what's called a 3-way valve and pump refrigerant to that designated evaporator. What I would do is take off the evaporator cover if you're turning on, let's say, the refrigerator one. Take it off, wait about 10 minutes, and make sure you have an even frost pattern going across all of those coils. If you do not, the problem is probably within your sealed system, and you're probably going to be forking out a pretty penny and need to call a trained professional. Go ahead and hit one of the 3rd keys on the right to exit, and let's move forward. The very last test that I want to do here is number 117 for a pitcher presence test. Inside the door, you have your water pitcher. Of course, there's a switch inside of it that tells it whether the pitcher is in there or it's not, and sometimes it can get ajar. So take that pitcher out, and the display should read 0 for not present. But when you put that pitcher in, the display should read 1, showing you that it's in there. Now, this is going to be the end of this portion of the test modes. It is imperative that we go all the way back to test number 16 and then press one of the 3 keys to exit and reset the entire system. Of course, that will finish up what I have on this bad boy. If you do need the tech manual, you can obtain it by either going to the manufacturer's website or posting it in the repair help section on ApplianceVideo.com. YouTube, if you enjoy my content, please do me that solid and like and subscribe. And as always, I'll see you next time.